All right, let's dive right in. We are surrounded by these incredibly powerful AI agents, right? Each one's an expert at its own thing. But as they all get smarter and more specialized, this huge question pops up. How in the world do we get them to work together? And that's exactly what we're digging into today. This big push for a common language, a standard called the agent-to-agent protocol.
Just think about this for a second. You've got this amazing flight booking agent, a top-tier hotel agent, and a brilliant agent for finding local tours. Each one is the absolute best at what it does, but they can't talk to each other. They all speak different languages. How is your main AI assistant supposed to plan a whole trip for you?
You got it. It would be absolute chaos. Without some kind of common ground, your poor master assistant would have to learn a completely new, custom language for every single specialized agent it needs to talk to. This isn't just a little inefficient, it's a massive wall blocking us from building truly powerful, connected AI systems.
And this really breaks down what that chaos looks like in the real world. Every time you want to add a new agent, it's a whole custom integration project. The system becomes this fragile mess that's a nightmare to maintain. And you know what? All these one-off connections create a ton of potential security holes. The end result? Innovation just grinds to a halt because everyone's too busy building bridges instead of creating cool new things.
So, what's the answer? Well, this is where the agent-to-agent protocol, or A2A for short, steps in. It's designed from the ground up to be that universal language. It's an open standard that gives agents a standardized way to talk and collaborate. It doesn't matter who built them or what tech they're running on.
Now, to really get what A2A is all about, we've got to compare it to another important protocol, the Model Context Protocol, or MCP. Think of MCP as the language an agent uses when it needs to use a tool, like calling a weather API. It's a straightforward command, get me the weather. But A2A? That's different. A2A is for when an agent needs to partner with another agent. It's for having a real back-and-forth conversation to get something complex done.
And this quote just nails it. Using a tool is a simple one-time transaction. Partnering on a task, that involves discussion, understanding context, and keeping track of things over time. It's kind of like the difference between using a calculator and working with a colleague to figure out a company's finances.
So, if two agents want to team up, how do they even find each other to begin with? How do they introduce themselves? This brings us to a really core piece of the A2A puzzle, the digital handshake, which is all about agent discovery.
And the key to this whole handshake process is something called the agent card. Honestly, the analogy is perfect. It's basically a digital business card. It's a simple standard JSON file that an agent can hand out to say, hey, here's who I am, here's what I'm good at, and here's how you can get in touch.
Let's take a peek inside this digital business card. First, you've got the agent's identity, its name, who made it, then the endpoint. That's the actual address to send messages to. Next, and this is super important, a list of its skills, so you know what you can ask it to do. And finally, the security rules, how to connect safely. By just reading this card, another agent knows exactly what it's dealing with.
Okay, so our agents have found each other, they've exchanged cards, they're ready to get to work. But what does that conversation actually look like? Well, A2A basically gives agents two main ways to respond. The first option is a simple, stateless message. This is for your quick one-and-done questions. Hey, what time is it? It's 3 p.m. Boom, done. But for anything more involved, the agent kicks off a stateful task. And this is more like opening a ticket in a project management system. It gets a unique ID, and you can track its progress from start to finish.
But wait, how do you string all these different messages and tasks together so they make sense as a single conversation? That's the job of the context ID. You could think of it as the conversational glue. Every single interaction shares this one ID, and it's the thread that lets the agents remember the context even if the conversation spans multiple tasks. And here's a really clever design choice that's crucial for keeping things reliable. Once a task is marked as complete, it's set in stone. It cannot be changed. If you want to ask for a revision, you have to start a brand new task that refers to the old one. This creates a perfect, unchangeable audit trail, which is absolutely essential when you're trying to manage complex systems. Now, this brings up a pretty obvious question, right? A lot of the work we want AI to do isn't instant. Some tasks might take minutes, hours, heck, even days to finish. So how does A2A deal with these long-running jobs?
Yeah, exactly. If you ask an agent to crunch a huge data set or write a long report, you can't just leave a connection open and sit there waiting. That's just not practical. The system needs a way to give you updates without you having to stay on the line.
And A2A has two great ways to handle this. If the client, that's you or your app, can stay connected,
It can use something called server-sent events, or SSE, to get a live stream of updates. Think of watching a document get written in real time. But for those really long jobs where you're going to disconnect, like on a mobile app, the agent can use push notifications to just ping you when it hits a major milestone, like when the task is finally done.
Okay, we've talked about how agents find each other, how they chat, and how they handle long projects. But now we have to talk about the most important piece of the entire puzzle, security. Because none of this amazing collaboration is worth anything if it's not secure.
Here is the single most critical security idea in A2A. The protocol itself, the actual messages being sent back and forth, contains zero information about who you are. Identity and authentication are handled completely separately using standard, battle-tested web technologies.
Now, this flow should look super familiar to anyone who's done web development. First, the agent card says, "Hey, I need an OAuth 2 token to talk." So the client goes to a separate authentication server and gets one. Then, with every single request it makes, it includes that token in a standard HTTP header. This is smart because it's not reinventing the wheel. It's using the security methods that have powered the web for decades.
And of course, every bit of this communication has to be encrypted. It's non-negotiable. A2A recommends using modern transport layer security, TLS 1.2 or newer, for any real-world deployment. This makes sure that nobody can snoop on the conversations between your agents.
So, let's just pull it all together. What do we get with A2A? We get real interoperability, where agents from anywhere can work together. We get security that's built on a rock-solid foundation of proven web standards. We get scalability, so we can build huge, complex systems of agents. And we get traceability, so we always have a clear, auditable record of what happened. And this is really the question to leave with. We're on the verge of moving away from a world of isolated AI tools and into a world of connected AI partners. By giving them a common language, we're laying the foundation for autonomous systems that can solve problems that are way too big for any single agent to handle today. And honestly, the possibilities are just starting to open up.